One of the rules is all ripe aggregate berries are edible. In this case, they're not quite ripe yet. They're not anywhere near being ripe. You can just barely see. So when they're green like that, just collect them, bury them in the hot dust next to your fire, leave it in there for about a half an hour, maybe an hour, pull it out, let it cool off, and then you can eat them. So that's like a baked berry. It won't taste good, but at least it won't give you an upset stomach and you can go ahead and eat it anyhow. So an aggregate berry is a whole bunch of tiny little berries collected together on one receptacle so that it looks like one berry. So all ripe aggregate berries all around the world are edible. So the 5 plant absolutes are: number 1, all jointed grasses are edible. Number 2, all ripe aggregate berries are edible. And this is worldwide. Number 3, any bulb that looks like, smells like, and tastes like an onion is edible. Number 4, all cattails are edible. And number 5, all sedges and rushes are edible. That's worldwide. More general plant principles include all plants that are edible that have a broad leaf will taste better if it's growing in a moist, shaded area as opposed to a dry, sunny area. And all plants whose root is edible will taste better growing in sandy soil as opposed to growing in dark, rich, mineral garden soil. There are 3 ways to make a bitter plant taste better. Number 1, parboil. Crush up the plant, throw it in boiling water for 59 seconds. Pull it out, taste it. If it's still bitter, then bring another pot of water to a boil, put it in for 59 seconds, and taste it. If it's still bitter, then bring a third pot of water to a boil, put the plant in there for 59 more seconds, and if it's still bitter after that, then forget about it. You pretty much boiled out everything that's worth eating it. Another way is to crush up the plant and then rinse it in running water. It's called leaching. And you may have to do that for a while before you can get the bitter better. Another way, a third way to make the bitter better, is to make 2 mud pies. Put the crushed plant in between, smash it together like a sandwich, pinch the edges, leave it out in the sunlight until it completely dries through and through, break it apart, and then the plant should be better. The mud and the clay, as it dries, will draw out what might be making it bitter. So that's 3 different ways you can make the bitter better. An edibility plant principle that you can live by is: if you are not 100% positive the plant is edible, then 100% do not eat it. Again, that's a rule you can live by. Another rule is learn a handful of plants in your area that are edible that grow in abundance. Don't worry so much about the plants that there may be 1 or 2 per acre. Also, don't worry about learning plants that are poisonous. Refer to rule number 1. If you cannot positively identify it as edible, then positively do not eat it. This is balsam root and has big leaves and gigantic bright yellow flowers, which unfortunately are all bloomed out. And the seeds, look at the size of these seeds. You can eat the seeds like any other sunflower, and they're quite tasty. Balsam root also can be used to make shampoo. These are the mustard pods. on a different species than we looked at before. And the pods have that hot mustard flavor. It's excellent adding it to an otherwise boring salad. Gives it a good peppery taste. This is narrow leaf plantain. You can boil the leaves and eat them, usually before the flower appears, otherwise they get tough. But tough is not a problem, just go ahead and chew it up, swallow the liquid, and then spit out the fiber. And also the seeds, once they form, are edible and can taste good, and are also medicinal.